Hi all, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ronke and I love to create content on travel, career, and positive living. In today's video, I am telling y'all how to get to the point, okay? I personally am very guilty of this, but I've noticed very recently that I tend to ramble in conversations. This can be a conversation that maybe I'm having informally, maybe a conversation with a friend, and sometimes even in more formal or professional settings. In today's video, we're talking about how to get to the point. I have noticed recently that I tend to ramble. Now, this happens in both formal conversations and informal conversations. And so informal conversations are basically like chit chat with friends, family, whatever. And then the formal conversations would be either conversations maybe in a leadership capacity or conversations at work in a professional capacity. I'm not really talking about presentations because I tend to prepare well enough that I don't ramble. But as I've said, I've just noticed for myself that I've been rambling a lot. And I do think a lot of other people also struggle with the same thing. What I would say is specifically in a professional setting or even in a more formal setting where maybe it's a meeting or something, I tend to notice when people ramble and I tend to side-eye them when they ramble because I'm like, gets to the point. Nonetheless, in today's video, I wanted to really share some tips that I think can be helpful and some tips that I've also been using to help myself get to the point. Now, in general, before I actually hop into the tips, in general, I do think that as much as you can plan and prepare ahead is ideal. And that's why I said that typically for me, when it comes to presentations, I don't ramble. And that's because I've planned ahead, I've prepared ahead, I know my points, I know what I'm talking about. So as much as is possible, do try to plan and prepare ahead. But whenever that isn't feasible, here are some tips that will help. I think in general, one thing I would recommend is to make sure that you have the right spaces to ramble. At the end of the day, I think some of us, we do like to hear our voice. We do want to say everything on our mind. We want to get from point A to point Z and go through each letter. And so the way to sometimes do that is making sure that you do have an appropriate space where you can ramble. This might be with the best friend, it might be with the sibling, it might be with the spouse, it might be with your random neighbor who just allows you to talk. But it is important every once in a while that you find an outlet where you can truly ramble, be, filled with emotion, whatever it is that you need to do to sometimes get it out. The second thing I would recommend is to address any underlying issues. Now, for some people, they might ramble when they start to feel anxious. Some might ramble because they have an attention disorder. And then you have another class of folks who might ramble because they just are not as polished when it comes to speaking. And so for the first two, obviously, that's something that is a little bit more medical. You might want to discuss with a doctor. Whereas for the last one, polishing, really by taking a Toastmasters or some level of public speaking course, you can get the necessary tool sets to help you polish your speaking. And even when it comes to the polished speaking, one thing that I would recommend is also improving your vocabulary. You using one word to say 5 words helps you to rein in the ramble. The third thing I would recommend is to pay attention. I tend to ramble if I'm confused about what's going on or if I know I have not been paying as much attention. Sometimes the ramble provides me the time that I need to try to quickly go back in my head and figure out, wait, what did they just say or what are we talking about? And so if you're paying attention, I strongly feel that that will help you to reduce the likelihood that you are going to ramble because you actively know what the discussion is. My fourth tip is to time yourself. Timing yourself is extremely important when you are having some of these more professional conversations. Let's say you're in a meeting at work and you all are trying to get through 6 topic areas and there's 10 of you. Timing yourself will be important so that everyone can get whatever they need to say out as well and that you all can effectively move through your agenda. Next tip I would give is to think and speak a little slower. For a lot of people, we tend to ramble because our brain is moving at like 50 miles per hour and our mouth is trying to catch up. When you are able to effectively think and speak slower, it forces you to really think through everything that you're saying, and it allows you to actually give extra emphasis to certain things that are being said. For me, I think this is one of those things that has truly helped me. When I was much younger, I used to speak like somebody was chasing me, but I've learned to slow it down, and I can still do to slow it down a little bit more, but I found that by slowing it down, it gives me the opportunity to think through what I'm saying and not ramble. My next tip is to focus on the high points. A lot of times when people think you're rambling, it's probably because you're not addressing the high points. You're not addressing the things that actually matter. You're addressing the secondary content when there's primary content to be addressed. So if you understand what the high points are or you understand what the key questions are, it helps you to be a little bit more targeted in your response. If at any point in time you are confused about what you should be addressing, aka what the high points are, this is the perfect opportunity for you to repeat back what you have heard and make sure that what you are answering is what is being asked. My next tip is to pause. Pausing allows you to take in what you have actually heard, and it gives you a little bit of time to pre-plan what you're about to say. Now, sometimes the truth is pausing in the middle of a conversation can feel awkward, but I think it is worth it if it helps you to gather yourself so that you're not rambling. Finally, if you don't have anything of value to add, silence is okay. Sometimes we tend to ramble because we actually don't have anything of value to add, and we're now trying to manufacture something of value in the process. Silence is okay. You do not have to address everything always. I hope the tips I've laid out in this video are helpful. Take the time to practice them and see how it works for you. As always, please make sure that you like this video, share with others, and subscribe to my channel for more travel, career, and positive living content. See you in the next video.